Hi guys. Hi guys. It's me from the future. So here's the thing. I recently caught the thing we're not really supposed to say out loud or we risk getting demonetized for some reason, and it got me very, very sick. Unfortunately, while being too busy wasting away in bed like a frail Victorian maiden who felt too strong of a breeze, I really didn't have time to work on a new video. So this is a video I recorded and started editing a while back, but actually ended up scrapping it partway through because I just wasn't vibing with it. But I need to upload something to appease our algorithm gods, so I pulled myself out of this feverish haze and I finished this one. I do apologize if it's pretty rough for that reason, but I do hope you all enjoy this little peek into the Darling Dolls vault. So let's get into the video. So, Winx Club is finally getting a reboot. Woo! It's no secret that fans of the franchise have spent the last few years feeling, what's the word? Disappointed, disillusioned, sad, angry, bitter, enraged. Now there's some disagreement as to when exactly Winx Club's decline began, but regardless, you'd be pretty hard-pressed to find a fan who actually likes the direction the series has gone in. So I thought I would spend today talking a little bit about what went wrong, what the reboot could fix, and how they could revive some of the things that made the earlier seasons so beloved. Yeah, it could be easy to just say, oh, I hope the reboot has better writing, but to be honest, Winx Club has never had particularly great writing, and I'm okay admitting that, but there are certainly other things that it could improve on. I know this in particular is a little different from my usual content, but I wanted to make this video because I'm a very long-time fan. My first exposure to the series was actually way back when it was on Fox Kids here in America before it became 4Kids. At some point, I got a Flora doll from Walmart that came with a little promotional DVD that introduced the plot and the characters, and well, it changed my life. So, yeah, I have sort of a personal commitment to this show, and all I want is for it to at least be watchable again. So, I do have a little list here, and let's go ahead and go over it. Issue number 1, the racial representation. In a video a few months ago, I posed the question of what you guys wanted to see most in the Winx Club revival. By far, the most common answer I received was people hoping they would stop whitewashing the characters of color. And I completely agree. By now, pretty much every main character of color has had their skin tones lightened or their features erased, and it's way past time to stop. It looks like the new series has given Flora and Aisha their skin tones back, so that's good, but I think there needs to be a real commitment that extends beyond the animation and to the promo materials, the merchandise, the secondary art styles, etc. Just recently, Winx Club launched a merchandise website aimed towards adult fans, and a lot of it included this more anime-inspired art style, which is pretty cool, but it also notably lightened Flora's skin tone. After some initial backlash, they did go back and fix it, but this shouldn't still be happening. I mean, it shouldn't have happened in the first place, but it certainly shouldn't happen at all in the reboot. Almost everything else I'm going to talk about I can really live without, but this is one thing I consider an absolute requirement. No more whitewashing. Issue number 2, the intended audience. A lot of the issues with Winx Club today can be attributed to the fact that over the years it has been lowering and lowering the age demographic more and more. The older the original fans got, the younger the intended audience got, to the point that the most recent season was actually aimed at a preschool level, compared to the original run where the demographic went up to the tween level. To me, this has always been one of the more baffling decisions Winx Club has made, and there have been attempts to sort of rectify this, but only through spin-offs like World of Winx and Fate rather than the mainline series, and honestly, these came off more like consolation prizes to the fans who are now older rather than genuine attempts to recapture that audience. Now, I'm not saying the reboot needs to be aimed at adults. It still has plenty of younger fans after all, but I do really want to see them return to a somewhat older demographic. The very premise of Winx Club is inherently kind of silly and childish, and I don't really want to change that. That's something I actually love about it, but there's plenty they could do to make the show more appealing to older fans again without alienating younger viewers. There's tons of cartoons that appeal to all ages, and Winx Club was one of them. Now, this is something I don't actually know if they'll do. The switch to an art style more detailed and reminiscent of the original animation does give me a little bit of hope, but I can't say for sure what I'm expecting, especially since the reboot is apparently going to be more episodic with like shorter episodes, but I think a more mature storyline is still possible. For instance, the second run of DC Superhero Girls follows a very similar setup, 6 superhero characters, episodic format, but it still manages to tackle some mature storylines and references for older fans of the comics while still very ostensibly being for kids. I think Amphibia is another good example. I haven't really watched it, but I have heard good things about it. But it also carries a shorter episode format, but also a very complex, overarching storyline with it. But we'll just have to see what direction they choose to take it in. Issue number 3, the fashion. So this one has been pretty topical since Fate first came out, and the fashions were less than stellar, to say the least, but in my opinion, it's been a really long time since Winx Club was truly ever fashionable. The characters being very modern and fashionable was considered a pretty intrinsic part of Winx Club's conception, and I do think they accomplished that for the most part. When I was younger, I just loved how every character had a fairly defined fashion style, but they all still looked so cool and so glamorous. It wasn't perfect, like all the characters were still pretty traditionally feminine and almost every outfit was some variation of a crop top and a miniskirt, but it's only gotten worse. Musa, for instance, who is probably the closest thing to a tomboy among the girls, has grown her hair and completely lost her edge, but honestly all the characters have just started dressing like a group of eerily well-coordinated toddler sextuplets on Easter Sunday. They just essentially wear the same outfits in different colors with little to nothing to indicate their personality. The one group shot we have of the characters from the reboot so far does definitely make me think they're fixing this though. We can't see a whole lot of the outfits, but it looks leagues better than anything they've presented in like the last decade. And also, they absolutely take the girls' personalities into account. Issue number 4, the romance. Okay. So, I know some people are going to disagree with me on this one, but this is just a personal gripe I had even in the earlier seasons, and it's just that there was way too much focus on romance. I never liked how each girl had their own love interest and was paired off perfectly, or if they broke up with their boyfriend, or if their boyfriend died, or whatever, they would immediately be thrown into the arms of another male character. I think the specialists can still exist, but I would honestly prefer most of them to just be their own characters and not love interests. I would be okay with a few relationships carrying over, but I would just personally prefer less of an emphasis on romance in general. I think the girls have such interesting friendship dynamics, and that could be a lot of time devoted to showing off some relationships between them that we really didn't get to see much of in the original series, which is one thing on its own that I definitely want to see more dynamics between the girls. Let me see more of what Aisha and Flora's friendship is like, of how Musa and Tekna get along, etc, etc. A reboot is the perfect opportunity for this, and honestly so is a shorter episode format. We don't have to have all 6 girls featured in every episode. Let some just feature 2 or 3 and show how they team up. I really wouldn't mind that, honestly. Issue number 5, the setting. So this is a small one, but it's just important to me. And it's just that Winx Club has kind of lost sight of the fact it started as sort of a sci-fi series. The setting was originally like very futuristic and modern, and I remember thinking that was really unique for a series about fairies, and I was so into it. Granted, that was really only in season 1, and it was definitely futuristic in a very early 2000s kind of way, but that's still very charming. And even so, I think it would be really easy to reimagine a modern take on Winx Club. I almost want them to go for a more urban fantasy kind of vibe, almost similar to what Fate tried to do, but also maybe not what Fate tried to do. I don't know, I'll let them figure it out, but I would definitely like to see the overall setting from Season 1 return. Issue number 6, or issues, just some miscellaneous things. Just a few things that aren't big enough to constitute their own sections, but I still wanted to mention. I wouldn't mind the reboot being more focused on action and fight scenes, as it was always Winx Club's intention to give girls a female-focused action-adventure series, but I can also definitely live if it stays around the level of the first 4 seasons. But I would love to see a wider variety of spells and a better use of their unique powers. I would really like to see male fairies and female specialists. This is one good thing that Fate did introduce. Male witches too, while we're at it. Better world building in general, like for instance the role of witches in Winx society has always been very poorly defined. We never really got to be very familiar with all the different societies in it either. Like, how awesome would it be if the main characters all had well-defined cultures or traditions that were unique to them and their realms? Maybe that sounds complex on paper, but I don't think it would be that difficult to implement, even in a show aimed at a younger demographic. Would it be too much to ask for less plot holes? Or are the glaring plot issues and inconsistencies just part of the charm? Because they've always been here, especially in the early seasons, and I don't know, I don't want to get too greedy here. Okay, this last one is actually pretty relevant to my channel here, and it's just that there's never been a line of Winx Club dolls that I loved. I do like the Mattel dolls, I think they come the closest to capturing the glamour of the characters, but there's none that I really felt reflected the show. And that's not to say they're bad dolls, there's definitely been some very quality and nice dolls to come from Winx Club, but just none that really give me the vibe that I'm looking for. And the most recent dolls really don't either. They do have nice outfits, but their faces are so bland and they just look so stiff and lifeless, so I definitely want an improvement in that area, but we'll see. But I think that about covers everything that comes to mind. Absolutely let me know down below what you're looking for in the Winx Club reboot, what you hope changes, and what you hope stays the same, and even some things that you hope they don't do. But as always, just thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos like this one. Thank you!